Good evening, everybody. This is Steve Sullivan, your guest host tonight for the Made from Scratch broadcast. First off, I want to thank Gabriel for trusting me to host his show. I'm known to be kind of a wild and crazy guy, so it might be a little dangerous to have me host the show, but I can guarantee you this, we're going to have a good time. And with me tonight is Karen Markle.
Hi, Steve.
Hi, Karen. And I am so excited to have Karen here with me tonight. If you don't know Karen, I hope tonight you see the amazing woman that she is. She's very articulate, bright, she's full of positivity, full of empathy, and most important to her, she is a woman of faith. So welcome to the show, Karen.
Steve, hi again. And let me first say thank you to Gabriel for this platform that he's creating and he's building. He's been a guest on one of our chats, which I know we're going to be speaking about tonight. And I love the energy that he brought, which is the same that he has here on this podcast. So I'm super, super excited to be sitting here tonight chatting with you.
Yes, this should be an awesome conversation. And so let me start off by asking you, what is this positivity chat that you host?
Well, for those who don't know, I actually co-host this positivity chat with, of course, my good friend Steve here. And I hope you don't mind me putting you on the spot, Steve, but we have this kind of running joke about who the star and who the architect is. And really, the architect is you. Steve and I have known each other for a little while, and I remember one of the calls that we were on one-on-one, and you just, were making comments about we should have a positivity chat and invite people to come along. And that's kind of where this whole initiative kind of was born in that moment. And the funny thing is, when you approached me with the idea, I honestly, and maybe I shouldn't say this out loud, but I honestly thought it was a one-time event. Now, it was really exciting the first time we did it, but it was amazing how much fun it was and what we were getting from it. And the next thing I know, here we are doing this week after week after week and having the best time ever.
Yeah, definitely. And folks, do not let her fool you. She is truly the star. I'm just the guy who holds the mic.
No.
That's the architect's role. So, Karen, what are some of the people who've been joining in on this chat, or who are some of these people that have been joining in on the chats?
That's one of the most remarkable things about this whole kind of movement that we are creating. The people that have been joining these chats. I mean, we started out with an open invitation to just anybody because we really did not know who would want to spend time with us, just a little bit of time, an hour with us. And lo and behold, we've had guests like Lila Smith. We've had people like Jacqueline Way, Mark Schmidt, who's also another podcaster, people you need to check out his podcast. We've had Edward O'Cobney. We've had Anthony Savalas. We've had so many incredible people who are like the who's who of LinkedIn, powerful influencers that they want to spend time with us. That's just remarkable.
Yes, it is. It's been amazing that so many people have made time, cleared their schedule.
Yes, because really, I mean, I just barely scratched the surface of, some of the top influential people that have been on our chat so far. And it's amazing to me every time I think about what's growing here. These individuals, they're very busy. They have a lot going on with their schedules. And that really holds true for everyone involved, whether I've named them tonight or not. Everyone has a very busy schedule, and yet some of these individuals are rearranging their schedules. I mean, can you believe that? Rearranging their schedules so they can spend time engaging with us and helping us to continue creating and building this powerful movement that we've started.
And we've had people like Helen and Omar from Europe join us and staying
Yeah.
up late to participate in the conversation. So
Yes.
we're
Yes.
very thankful for that. One of the things that people should be aware of, we've talked about keeping the positivity chats on Thursdays, but rotating the times, because we'd like to give the opportunity for as many people as possible around the world to join up. And so certain times like 9 a.m. Eastern has worked well for more of the European East Coast people. 4 p.m. Eastern has worked well for the North Americas. And not this week, but following week, we're going to do 9 p.m. Eastern with the hope of pulling in people from down under to Asia and all our good friends there that are normally asleep when we're having these chats, and we're going to invite them and hope that they can join with us. So, Karen, what are some of the benefits that you see people can get by participating in these positivity chats?
Well, personally, I think there are three key benefits, and I think Lila will be proud of me because I'm going to use her. What does she call it?
Verb your values.
Verb your values, because the three of them are to value. That's number one. We talk about that. You know, everyone that participates has an opportunity to feel and walk away to be feel valued for their perspective that they bring to the table. And then we also have to encourage. If that's what's so wonderful, another great thing about these chats is they're all so encouraging. I mean, when I get done with the call, I'm like, so the energy is through the roof from feeling so encouraged by, even when we talk about difficult themes, we still come away feeling very encouraged. And then, of course, the third voice your verb would be to empower. And so I find that every time we have somebody that is a repeated guest, and we're starting to see that, I find that they are speaking with more, I don't know, vibrato. I don't know if that's quite the right word that I'm looking for, but you can see that they're feeling more empowered to share their stories, share their perspectives, and they're doing it in a way that they know that everyone is going to be there to listen. They're going to try to understand, and it's done in such a respectful manner. I mean, the amount of educating that we're doing is just remarkable.
It is. And what are some of the topics that have come up in these conversations?
That's a good question, and I hope you don't mind. I have a little cheat sheet because we've covered quite a bit. Like, we started off with life stories to understand other experiences, and while I talk about that, I want to, it's been very interesting to me. When you and I first came up with this idea, we actually thought about, it was right after Mr. Floyd was killed. So we've got the seat, the lid of racism is just blown way open here in America. And that was in combination with the growing tensions of COVID-19. People are feeling very frustrated. People are losing their jobs. So a lot of negativity was just a big pot of negativity. And, you and I, we were talking about, we really need to come up with a way to bring encouragement to people in these difficult times. And so, of course, we're talking about life stories, of people doing, small acts of positive things that maybe they don't get shared often. So that's kind of what we shared. We also talked about the importance of the acceptance of others, because let's face it, not only here in America, but around the world, we've got a bunch of different people that are trying to coexist. And not everybody is going to share the same viewpoint, from the way that they live. And I don't really want to get too far into the differences on how we live because there are many. We've also talked about parenting and race again, leadership. This is where we're starting to kind of, I really feel like we're starting to grow more in this area when it comes to professionalism and leadership, and talking about the courage that it requires to be probably the type of leader that maybe some people might not have always appreciated in the past, but it's definitely, we're living in a day and age where They need to change kind of the way that they interact with their teams, be more diverse. And I think you and I have spoken about that a little bit. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I truly agree with you that we've had some great conversation, and leadership this last time came up strongly because we were discussing the topic of courage. What does it mean to have courage in the face of some of these racial tensions that go on? And are we stepping up in situations where we could? When we hear somebody make a bad comment about a group of people, are we being bold enough to challenge them to say, what do you mean? And to potentially counter that by saying, hey, that's not my experience. I know some really smart people. They've been really valued people on my team and working with me, and try and present a different and positive perspective on those types of communities of people. And I think, again, going back to the beginning, because of all that racial tension stuff that was going on and all the negativity in the news, that triggered us in a sense to say, hey, there's got to be some positive things in the world that we can highlight. So instead of focusing on the negative, what can we do to focus on the positive? What stories do people have who can help spotlight positive human relations? And we've been blessed with many great stories. I've really appreciated them because certainly as a white guy, I have not experienced a whole lot of things that you as a Black woman have experienced growing up. And as I hear those stories, they open my eyes to see a different life, different experiences that help educate me, make me more wise and more sensitive to potentially what your community or the Black community is dealing with that is foreign to me. And I think that helps break down racism when we can hear those experiences and begin to accept people and say, wow. And through that acceptance, then build a better community that includes more people, more positive interaction that's not related to a community or race or religion or whatever. It's just the ability for us to positively impact the world.
You mentioned something that I think is worth noting, because two things. One, you know how I feel about you and storytelling. You're masterful at storytelling, and because you're so good at it, you understand the intrinsic value and how people, when they connect to a story, that's where the impact can really begin to kind of grow and blossom into something more. I mean, yes, you want to tap into people's emotions, and how do you do that? You do that through great story sharing, and that's something that we've been able to kind of cultivate, each week on this chat, by giving individuals an opportunity to not only share their perspectives, but really talk about how it relates to their day-to-day life. Because with this chat, yes, it is on a professional platform, LinkedIn. But one of the things that really I love so much, and you and I have spoken about this many times often, is that we are giving professionals an opportunity to come together. It's almost like a LinkedIn, local, but online. But there's something that's a little bit different from that. And you're getting this opportunity to hear how people are living, professionals that we've all come to know through the various professional channels, but we're getting to see a different perspective of how they're living life by their participation in these chats. And it just it shrinks the world in the essence of that. They're not that much different than I am. Sure, they might look a little different. They may live in a different country, maybe even speak slightly different than I do, but we share a lot of the same problems and issues, and we're leaning on and linking arms together with one another to try to keep each other encouraged and offer support where it's needed.
Yeah, and some of those stories have been eye openers in terms of what people experience, but also positive stories. Like
Yes.
I remember Karen Cooper sharing with us how when she entered high school, she was picked on, and one of these big black football players basically took her under his protection and walked her home every day for 4 years through high school to make sure that nothing happened to her. And that's the type of human interaction we hope to see and encourage, because people are caring for each other. It doesn't matter whether white, black, yellow, red, whatever. It's that we care for one another as individuals because we truly are one people. Are there any stories that come to mind to you?
Well, there are so many different stories. I'll tell you, Dimitri shared a lot that's really kind of resonated with me. Dimitri Ortiz, and something that was really very striking to me. I think it was the first time he was on our one of our chats, and he spoke about the fact that he is Guatemalan, and yet the challenges that he has faced not only when he was initially growing up in Guatemala, but then when he came to the United States and he saw kind of a role reversal of this kind of racism. When he was in his homeland, he was considered, using his words, part of the oppressor group, just because of where he was raised, how he was growing up. And he comes to the States, and all of a sudden, because he looks different, he sounds different, he's, put in this situation where he's being down upon. And yet it was amazing to me to see just how resilient and how full of positivity that he is even today. I imagine he probably was like that even when he was younger, although he faced many, many challenges, and he shared about some of those. So, if there's anyone that's on this, watching us right now, if you haven't had a chance to go to YouTube and check out those previous chats, I really encourage people to do that, because it's not just a shameless plug, but it also gives you an opportunity to kind of see and listen in to the things that we've been sharing and the type of education that you're going to get when you get involved with one of these chats. But he said so many things, and there was one thing in particular that I wrote down that was very striking to me, because it really touches on a lot in terms of how we see life in general regarding ignorance. And he said, ignorance is strong until the truth lights up in the room from where it's been living. And I think that holds true in so many different factors of life. It's not just racism, as a woman. Yes, I have a couple of strikes. According to some people, I have a couple of strikes against me because I'm Black or African American, which is one. And then two, I'm a woman. And, you and I also were on another webinar not too long ago. We talked about what is the common stereotype, which I was somewhat surprised to learn that it's kind of shared all around the world, of what a stereotypical business person is. And the answer was not a Black woman. It was actually, do you remember, Steve, what that
Yeah,
stereotype?
a white businessman is
Exactly.
the common.
Exactly. So when you talk about ignorance doesn't just cover the color of your skin. It doesn't even cover, your gender. I've seen ignorance being displayed towards older professionals from younger professionals, and vice versa. I've seen older professionals display ignorance to the younger generation. And the reality is, the younger generation is filled with so many phenomenal individuals that they already, by virtue of the timing of when they've been born and what's available to them at a much earlier age, they have the advantage. And whether we as older adults appreciate it, want to acknowledge it or not, it just is what it is. What they need is for the older generation with the experience to kind of link arms and partner up so that they can be mentors to kind of help them and come together, develop this synergy So ignorance, we find it in so many different areas of our life. And then there was another person who said something actually last week, and that was Jennifer McGinley. And I love what she said about courage. And she was talking about something that her husband shared with their son. And he says, courage means doing what is right, even when it's difficult. How many times have all of us found ourselves in situations where we needed to be courageous, whether it was professional or personal, but it was a situation that we knew something needed to be done to make a positive change, and maybe it was going to cost us something. That's where the courage comes in. You have to be willing to still step forward and do it. Now, how about you, Steve? Because I'm sharing a lot here. I'd love.
You are. You
I'm
are.
guilty of that.
No, you're doing great. One of the comments that surprised me was from Veronica after I'd shared about growing up as a white person and not really experiencing racism or hatred for me based on my skin color. She came back and said, you know, when I grew up in Ghana, I didn't experience racism either. She didn't know what it was until she went off as a college student to Europe and experienced it for the first time. So there are places and cultures where there is a greater level of acceptance
Yes.
that racism doesn't exist. And then there are other areas where, yeah, I like to use the word tribalism. We create these little tribes, people like ourselves.
Yes.
Not like us, then we push you out instead of trying to figure out what is common and how can we come together and form a bigger group.
Yes. Yes.
So,
Yes.
you know, those are, you know, we've had so many good thoughts presented by people that have joined us. And one of the things that strikes me too is we've got like the who's who of thought leaders on these calls. And I know you and I have talked about this, like, okay, is this going to be a real conversation, or are we going to have all these voices kind of just speaking up and nobody listens? And it has been amazing to me to see how many people have come and given of their time
Yes.
to just listen, and then afterwards have, you know, sent me a message to say, you know, I really appreciated being there and just listening and hearing to what other people were saying, to hear these stories, to grow in my understanding of some of these issues and possibly what we could do to improve relations.
Absolutely. Let's just go ahead and address the big elephant in the room in terms of who likes to talk more. sometimes I think it's tit for tat between you and I when we get on our calls, but I think it's pretty obvious. Anybody that knows me, not only am I a great listener, but yes, I can talk for more than a minute. And so that was something that I was very concerned about, not so much on my end, because, you know, as a co-host, a co-facilitator, your job is not to do the bulk of the talking. I've taught plenty of workshops in the past, so I know all about that and I know how to temper that down. But as you mentioned, we have so many great thought leaders that have been joining our chats, and several of them have a little bit more of a, how shall I say politely, dominant personality. So, which we absolutely love, because that's part of what makes them so great. I mean, I wouldn't change anything about them at all, not one thing. But we did have to talk about how were these chats going to come about if we've got all these people who have great ideas that they can bring to the table, but they're all going to be talking over each other. And we actually have not had that problem. I mean, last week's, I'll be honest, it was the largest group that we've had to date yet. And that's a great problem to have, honestly. I mean, really, I never imagined we would be already getting that many people involved. And so I'm expecting, and I'm putting that out there in the airwaves and the atmosphere, but I'm expecting that as we continue to do this and as more people learn about what we're doing, we are going to be having more and more people that are wanting to get involved, and we'll figure out we'll figure it out how to make sure that we still give everyone that wants to talk, to share their thoughts. We will figure it out. But you mentioned something that leads me to an interesting concept. Have any of our thought leaders kind of gotten a little, ruffled their feathers, if you will, at any of the conversations? And I don't know about you, but I can definitely think of one situation. It was all in good fun, and both individuals have a lot of respect for one another. But yes, we did have a call where, for a moment,
Oh, so you want me to mention that moment?
yeah, you go
Okay.
ahead and say
I'll
it.
go ahead. I'll go ahead because you're right. We're talking about some sensitive issues that could lead to people potentially disagreeing,
Yes,
and I'm sure there is some, but nobody has come out and been defensive or combative. Everybody's been respectful to listen and to try and understand, which is awesome. But we did have one funny moment where Brian Sexton was talking about himself and being an old man.
yes.
And once he talked about being an old man, Edward jumped all over him and said, I got to call you out on that. You're only as old as your mindset says you are.
Oh,
And while Brian was kind of being self teasing,
self-deprecating.
thank you.
Yeah.
And what really wasn't serious about it, but to Edward, man, those were words that fired him up, stirred up his passion for healthy living, and we had a great fun time laughing at that and going forward. Can you think of any other funny moments that we've had?
Oh goodness. Well, that one was probably the one that I might consider the potential for the greatest amount of tension, which thankfully that didn't happen. Any other times probably would have happened when we were just you and I. So we'll not talk about that.
The backstage comments, yeah.
We could talk about behind the scenes, but then we don't need to go behind the scenes. But let me just say something real quick about what you mentioned about Edward and his passion. I thought it was phenomenal because, first of all, not only did it fire him up, which is, kind of what we want with these chats, right? We are wanting to invoke and invite and promote positive conversations amongst the people that are there at that time. And we also our hope is that there will be some level of understanding, education if need be. And I can tell you, when Edward started speaking up, he was definitely giving all of us a lesson. Many of us are well aware about the power of our mindsets and perspectives, but his passion that he was sharing, if you were a person who didn't understand the importance of having the right frame of mind, you definitely understood by the time he got done talking. And the best part of all is that Brian is such a good sport. He really appreciated, and respectfully allowed him to share his counter to his self-deprecating comments. It's okay to, make self-deprecating comments to yourself. You just sometimes need to be careful who you make those to, right?
Potentially. All I know is I am likely to make that same comment, so it's like me standing next to Brian. I'm glad he did it, so he got all the fire and not me.
But it was good. But it was good banter, and again, that's part of what I am hoping occasionally that we see from our participants that, somebody's going to share something that if you don't agree, I want our participants to feel empowered to speak up and to share their side, because that's where the understanding, that's where the growth, that's where we can kind of say, okay, I see and I hear your point of view, which is different from mine, but somewhere in the middle of what you spoke is a little bit of an overlap onto where I stand. So let's go back to that point and let's see what we can build moving forward together just on that one little piece. And it's amazing if more people would look at their unique situations where there are different people with different ideas coming. And this, I think, holds true with in business, especially with management and leaders. There's so many different leadership styles. It's so important when you're working with your teams to still be willing to kind of listen to what they have to say and try to find that one little area that there is something similar that you can say, okay, this is where we agree. Let's focus on that, and then let's see how we can move forward from that point.
Yes, definitely. So why do you think people find these conversations compelling?
That is a loaded question, and it's one that I continue to meditate on, honestly. I think these conversations are offering something that many haven't found very often, and for sure with a similar group of like-minded individuals. Their willingness to want to come together and to just get real. Everybody that comes to these chats are bringing their authentic selves. We tell you, if you got an ego, check it at the door. Thankfully, nobody's ego is too big to get into the room. Everybody's been great so far, fantastic, and I anticipate that will remain the same. But I think people want to have this. They want to have the opportunity to spend time with other like-minded, great thought leaders, because it's interesting to me that as soon as we start putting out who's either been a part of a chat or who is going to be at the upcoming chat, man, you're the one who's in charge of the invites. I mean, you tell me how many people are starting to kind of slowly but surely reach out to you when they hear the list.
Yeah, exactly. Because most of us as content creators are aware of each other, probably engaged, maybe collaborated, maybe had one-on-one conversations. And to pull us together into an opportunity to talk face to face
Yes,
is something we all desire. But we're, like you said, so busy that doesn't happen all that often. So I think there is an element of that, is it's an opportunity to connect with these people that you consider influencers or even important to you as an individual and their impact on your life. Let me share some of the comments that we've received from people that have participated, which will give anybody listening here an idea of the value that people have found in it. So, amazing conversations, thought-provoking. The discussion is very rich and heartwarming. I love it. Diverse group of people united in tackling difficult issues. An awesome way to get to know the person behind the profile. Conversation that allows people to open up without barriers to share from their heart. And it's through those types of experiences that I think it draws people to return and want to return, even if they can't.
Yes, and I think it also bears sharing the importance of there's something that you and I discussed that we did not want to have on this platform, and that was having guests come on and try to sell. There's no marketing of your business, your company. We don't want any of that, and we don't talk politics for obvious reasons, because you mentioned politics, and boy, man, people, you can't have a conversation, and that really defeats the purpose behind what we wanted to do. I think you and I both can agree that taking the opportunity to market your business, taking that off of the table, it
Yes.
then opens the door for people who truly, truly want to be a part of something that's positive and creating a safe space where they're here to learn about differences, because they can take that back to their business. You know, the little jewels, and some of them are little, some are a lot, but they're all jewels. They can take what they learn and what they hear, things, stories that they didn't even know, and they can take that back to their business, their company. And but we did not want that part to be a part of our chats, because I find that if you know every week somebody's going to be promoting their business, after a while you kind of lose interest.
You get tired. And
We're getting hit enough on that.
I from the beginning, I don't think we've even asked people to do a personal introduction. I mean, we
Yeah.
just get together and we start talking, with most of us probably knowing the vast majority of the individuals there,
Hmm.
or maybe even all of them, because they're often either connections to me or to you,
Hmm.
and we just start talking.
Yes. Yes, it's been fun, and I'm just so in awe of the number of new connections that I have made since we started on this journey. And the individuals, they are just phenomenal. I mean, everybody that has been involved. Here's something that just came to my mind here too. You know, a lot of the individuals that are coming, again, they're really they're some of the who's who of the influencers. So obviously they probably have a large following, and or they're connected to many people. I thought that this was so neat. Last week we had a person on the chat who, it looks like, and I just recently connected with her too as well, but it looks like she doesn't have very many connections. She doesn't have very many people following her, and yet she felt comfortable enough to not only participate in the chat, but I was thinking, you know, I'm just going to say my fangirl moment with Lila Smith. I remember back in the day when I first connected with Lila, and I hadn't yet gotten the time to meet her face to face. And also Kenyatta, when Kenyatta was coming through Dallas, I remember fangirling and thinking, someone like me, little old Karen, they want to, you know, meet me. And so this person last week hardly has any connections, barely been on LinkedIn, and having this rich opportunity to spend time, an hour at least, with wonderful thought leaders who have built some pretty amazing platforms, not just on LinkedIn, but on other social media platforms. And she's getting to listen in and contribute equally. That's
Yes.
what people need to understand. It's not just these, you know, people who have millions of connections. It's not just people. They're not the only ones that bring value. Which goes back to one of the three verbs that I talked about: to value. Everyone who participates, they bring value. What they share is so important, and we want people to know if they're going to join, they don't have to share anything, but if they want to, the opportunity is there.
And Karen, I just want to commend you, because one of the things, value that you bring to these calls is awareness of the individuals. You're reading people. You're seeing when people want to say, hey, I have something to say, or they're squirming around, you know, and you're reading that like, oh yeah, they're holding it back. And me, I'm just clueless. I got the structure there. I'm on the wall. I don't know I don't know anything about feelings.
Oh my goodness, yes. You know, I'm a details oriented person. So that's like a double whammy. I love to talk, and I'm a details oriented person, which means there are times where I kind of go off a little tangent down a rabbit hole, and I can talk about the nth degree of anything, which even that makes me a little irritated at times. But I'll tell you, having that perk, that's a perk though for me. in terms of discussions that we've been having, because like I said, last week in particular, we had close to 20 people on that call. And so it becomes very challenging as a co-host to be able to read everything that's going on, because only one person is ever talking at a time. And so the fact that I'm very detailed oriented means that I spend a lot of time kind of scanning, looking at people's faces. And I'm sorry to call out Edward. He's such a delight. He is such a delight. Oh my gosh. I love his smile. It's so beautiful. I think it was maybe 2 weeks ago I kind of called Edward out because, I don't remember who was sharing something, but as I was doing my kind of scan the room type of thing, I could see the nonverbal communication that was going on his face, and I was
very expressive.
I was just like, okay, I know he just wants to be respectful and let them keep talking. But I was like, no. There are some great thoughts that are going on inside of his head, and I'm going to try to see if he'll share. So I called him out, and of course, he just delighted us all with what he had to share. And so I try my best to monitor and look around, because some people, like I said, some are a little bit more dominant with their personality. They're not afraid to kind of jump in, whereas others, they have equally valuable and pertinent information to share, but they may hold back a little bit, and they'll kind of put their hand up a little bit like this, and people keep talking over them. And so I'm like, okay, put my mama pants on, and I'm gonna, okay, let them talk. That's what I'm thinking in my head. That's not what I say, but that's what I'm thinking in my head. Like,
that's your attitude.
You let them talk.
Well, hey, I want to give a shout out to Lori Knudsen, a UMAP coach, because, hey, I'm a UMAP coach. And
Yes.
As you're talking about your detail orientation and your curiosity, that's stemming from your learner strength, something that we both share.
Yes.
Which makes us great team members from that standpoint, as well as having different strengths that help complement each other.
Yes.
So if you haven't done your UMAP, folks, you should do it.
Yes. Steve, I definitely recommend Steve, and I for sure recommend Lori. She was my UMAP coach, and I mean, it was such a fantastic, eye-opening experience. It's worth the time.
Definitely. So, Karen, where do you see these positivity chats leading?
So that is another big question that we are still, you and I were having discussions. We're trying to develop more things, because I really feel like we have the opportunities, and I'm looking forward to these opportunities that may come up for a business leader, a team leader, management may want to come on one of these calls to kind of hear how these are going, and may decide that they want to take a version of this type of a chat back to the companies that they work with and work for. And so that's my hope, that, because we are talking about developing something that we can actually present and kind of maybe show leaders, other thought leaders out there in the professional arena, how they can hold their own type of positivity chat. But I want to hear more. What are your thoughts? Because, you and I, we talk about this often, and you've shared some really golden nuggets. So
certainly one of the things we both have acknowledged is the uniqueness in how, God has brought us together.
Yes.
Me, a white man who doesn't often, you really don't see white men speaking about diversity. You usually find women, and quite often Black women speaking about diversity.
Yes.
And so between me being a white man, you being a Black woman, we bring both sides of that discussion and equation together in a way that if we can develop that out into some kind of structure, that companies could benefit from our leadership in having these types of discussions, we would love, I think, to see that happen.
Yes.
And from there, that might, grow into business, going into business together, other opportunities, whatnot. If anybody's here watching tonight who would like some assistance on holding positive human relation type of conversations, not just racism, but human relations, because there are other aspects of human relations besides race. And as we've talked, you can get anybody to come in and tell you, don't do this, don't do that. Mm-hmm. And that's not the approach we want to come. We want to come with a positive approach that helps people see, why is it beneficial to have diverse teams? If we can get leadership to see that it's in their best interest to have a diverse team, because it helps bring about greater performance for the company,
yes,
then they may step up and finally lead in a way to bring about diversity that could end or squash all these other conversations about, well, we need to do something for this or that. It'll just happen organically.
Yes, yes, yes. I'm very excited about the opportunities that are just right around the corner for us, because I feel like we're on the tip of something that really has an opportunity to make a global impact in the way that people move forward when they're having conversations, both professionally as well as personally, because there are a lot of people that they want to figure out ways to be able to not just coexist, but to understand. I already kind of mentioned that Dimitri has shared a lot on these calls that have really just resonated deeply with me. Another thing that he talked and he spoke of many times already now is cultural education. To me, that transcends racism, because to me culture isn't just about the color of your skin or your gender. Culture is about the way that you live, period. And when you begin to educate people on how you choose to live, what works for you when you're communicating with somebody who maybe has a different type of cultural experience, that's where a lot of richness can come in. But you have to come into this with this willingness to listen, to understand, and do it with respect. And when you do that, Rajiv is another one that has been on our calls, and he did a post, I think about 2 weeks ago, about one of the missing ingredients to certain situations. And also, I believe Edward spoke on this kind of in one of our positivity chats, and that missing ingredient is love. I love how Edward spoke in the professional community. We never used to hear that word love being spoken. And when you think about love, it isn't just of the romantic type. It is also of a partnership, a corporation, of a community, platonic
for people, yeah.
Yes, for humankind. As you said, this is a human race issue. And when you bring love back into the picture, it opens the world up for so many powerful but very positive things to come about.
Thank you. And I know Gabriel's just impatiently waiting to jump in. So, Gabriel, how did we do?
First of all, awesome conversation. You guys did wonderful. You can see where the chemistry happens between you two, and I love that. Couple of things that I've taken from this conversation. Number one, you guys, and this is making me jealous, but you guys have had Lila Smith before I've had Lila Smith, and I've actually sat at the table next to the woman in one of her workshops. So I've been trying so hard to.
Oh, we love Lila so much. She is such a treat. Oh my gosh, I love her.
Yes, so she's.
I told you the next time you let me guest host, I will twist Lila's arm to come on and let me interview her.
Yeah, so that's been like one of the things that even Monday night. I lied. Monday night she actually commented on the show, which was like,
hi.
I said hi, and I was like, wow, what is going on here? Maybe I'm doing something right. So yes,
Yeah.
I have yet to have Lila on, but of course, we all can dream. So
Yes.
just wanted to put that out there. And of course, I just recently had a wonderful conversation with Kenyatta. I love Kenyatta. She is. You want to talk about? And we had a 15-minute conversation, and I took so much out of that 15 minutes that was so impactful that it really did a lot of wonderful things. It turned around a lot of situations that I had. So I got to thank Kenyatta for that. She's always been around. She's a wonderful, wonderful human being.
Yes.
Another one that I hope to soon get on the show. I have not been chasing as I have. I've been chasing Lila since like episode. So like episode 2. So here I am, 103.
Yeah, long before you had me on.
Long before I had Steve on, right? So,
hey, what episode number am I?
Okay. So hold on, and this is what I've been thinking about. I believe you were episode 74, but I got to double check that. Make sure I'm going to get that right. But one of the things that you guys were mentioning is the fact that as you keep growing this, and the people who keep coming on and talking is feeling more comfortable about opening up. Yes. I think that's where you get a lot of value from people really being their natural vulnerable selves, and that's where you start getting a lot of learning about how to be positive and how to do a lot of these things that you guys are talking about. Is because again, you really have to first of all want to be open to share these experiences, because some of these experiences are not easy to talk about, right? Yeah. So
very personal, yeah,
very personal. Mm-hmm. And some of them they really take you back as a person whenever you open up like that to maybe that little sore spot that you don't really want to remember. But again, being open and sharing that, it shares so much value in other people's lives. So I love the fact that you guys you have that where people feel comfortable enough. That's one of the things that I've learned as well, doing a number of these things, is to get people to open up to the point where they want to feel comfortable talking about whatever issue. I try not to push somebody into talking about whatever their experience is, because I don't want to, again, put somebody back in the mindset of what it was like in that period. But if they want to open up and it feels like it helps them and it helps somebody else who might be watching, I always tell them, hey, you take those steps and thank you so much. You're actually helping me grow. You're helping yourself grow. There's so much that can be offered. So,
Gabriel, that's a great point, because one of the things I think we've noticed, and we didn't mention it tonight, Karen, is that when people share those stories, there is a lot of love, support, and caring for that individual.
Yes.
And also prompt some other people to share similar stories.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so in many ways, I'm hopeful that people are coming out of this saying, I'm not alone.
Mm-hmm.
There's others who've experienced what I have experienced. And that can build a deeper and better relationships.
Yes, absolutely.
And it takes courage to do that.
Yes.
So for somebody to sit there and talk about their personal lives and use it as an example to share with somebody, I tell somebody when they're done, man, you have all my gratitude, because it took a lot to say those things.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes it even takes more courage to hear it again coming out of your own self and saying those sort of things. So I love the fact that you guys are putting these together, and I do plan to be on a few of these. So I heard you said you're trying to do one at a later time, right, on Eastern time, and
9 p.m. Eastern time.
So that would be perfect for me, because guess what? As soon as I hop off at 8:00, boom, I can hop in that conversation there and be there. So I'm looking forward to that one, because I get so much value myself, because it introduces me to, number one, to a couple of new people. Number two, I get to hear experiences and stories that that I might not relate to, but I learned so much from. And I think that's kind of important. And I think you said that Dimitri talks about that cultural education, listening to somebody else's their stories and experiences, and imparting what they have as far as like wisdom, and teaching somebody else about what it is to be to talk about hate, ignorance, all these things that people have experienced in their lifetimes, and they hear it and go, okay, wow, what can I, first of all, how do I take all that in and soak it in emotionally? Number two, what are some of the things that I can do to help somebody learn that might have a similar experience in my own life, right? Somebody else who might, okay, hey, listen, I heard this guy talk about this. This is how he dealt with the situation, or this is how I can equate it to something else that I have in my life. You take so much and you give so much from there. And that's why I love these conversations. I've been on a few other ones, and I mean, some of them have been so heartfelt and touching that I literally teared up in the middle of the conversation, because you know that it's a real experience for that person, and then you're hearing it, and I go through the emotions of, wow, if that person went through it, and I'm tearing up, what must have been like for them, and what kind of strength and courage and things that they learned that they go through themselves. So, man, I am so about all these conversations.
You know what, Gabriel? That is one of the reasons why we've been so passionate about not having people come on and market their business. They got to take that. They get to take that hat off. The pressure is off. There's no pressure. You just show up, and when you show up, as you kind of touched on, when you show up as your authentic self. You know, I mean, even if you have almost sometimes, let's face it, some of us show up with a fake smile because we're having a down moment, but, you know, people have an opportunity to share in the conversation. Steve's smiling because he never has a down moment. Every time he's riding high.
Hey.
You have those people that do show up, though. They got the pressure of being the professional. That hat is put to the side, and it's just the individual behind the title. They're the ones that show up, and that, I believe, is part of what builds and develops and offers that safe space and that support and that love. And they get to see, I'm not the only one that has gone through something like that.
Yeah.
And beautiful when we see that happening.
You know, one of the things I love about Dimitri, since we're talking about him, is that when he shares his experience, it's always from a positive attitude.
Yeah.
And that radiates through his stories.
Yes.
You know, he could be bitter and angry or whatever. Instead, he used these opportunities to learn, to grow as an individual. And now through his positivity to try and make a difference in the world.
Yeah, and that's, again, that's why I tell everybody, you come on my show, I don't want the 8 to 5 person. I want the person that's from 5 to 8 in the morning. I want the person who's off the clock, who you know, what your personal passions are, or what are the things that you want to share, because to me, that's who the true individual is. You are not your title. You are not whatever your work says you are. You are, at that point, you.
Yes.
And those are the people that, when I get on and I get the opportunity to quote unquote crack into their mind there, I love that, because you learn so.
Unless they turn the table on you, Gabriel.
Like, hey, I've had that happen, and that gentleman right there in the middle did that to me.
You know, Gabriel, that's even how I got hooked into doing these positive acts. Steve worked his little, I don't know what it is, I don't want to say magic, but he did something. He was saying those sweet words of, Karen, it'd be great to do something with you. Let's collaborate. Collaborate.
It's knowing the right thing to say at the right time, and that's how he got me. Where it almost towards the end of our interview, it kind of turned where he was interviewing me, which was like, okay, people usually don't do that. and we were sitting there talking about it. I go, okay, right. And then he said, "You want to be the guest host?" I said, "Cool. Then I already know that you'll know what to do if you're turning the tables on me, asking me questions." And I rarely get that. So it kind of it took me aback a little bit, where somebody had actually turned the table, and I had to start thinking about answers, because I'm not used to being in that mode when I'm having these conversations. I'm more in listen. I want to active listen and then formulate questions that I think are pertinent to the conversation. That's where my mind usually is at when I'm listening to it. So when he turned the table on me, that kind of again, threw me aback a little bit, going, okay, wait a minute. Wait. What am I supposed to be talking about here, first of all? And then trying to formulate my answers, because we were talking about fatherhood and a lot of different things, and it caught me in a different mindset, and I was appreciative of it, because afterwards it made me think a lot of things. And I actually have my journal. Let me see if I can find what I wrote, because here's what I do after every show. I sit down and I journal what I go through with each guest. So when I do that, it's sometimes it could be 2 lines about what I've taken from the conversation, and sometimes it can be a whole paragraph or almost half a page. Mm-hmm. So I got to sit here and look and see, because it was quite a bit.
Gabriel,
while you're looking, Gabriel, there's a reason that I call Steve the architect. There's a reason why he has that nickname, because he's very masterful at being able. It's also a wonderful gift, though. I mean, in all seriousness, it is a true talent of his that he is able to recognize and visualize structures of how things possibly can be. And so he and I, we work so well together. We draw on one another's strengths. In the areas where I'm not as strong, boy, he shines like a diamond. In the areas where I might be a little bit stronger, I shine like a ruby.
Yeah, it's like 10% me, 90% her.
Oh, whatever.
Yeah, don't give us that. Hey, we're not selling the business here. Come on. He is again, he's really good.
Yes.
At finding. I think that's why he's good as a UMAC coach as well. Is
yes.
when he finds and hears certain things about somebody, right? He really knows how to start digging into asking questions and what kind of questions to ask.
Yes.
So here it is. It's episode 68, and let me just read a few things of what I wrote. And I said, Tonight I was caught aback because I was asked questions about my fatherhood. These were things that I did not take into account of what was going on in my own personal life. Steve made me think a lot about what I should be doing and how I should be communicating with my family. I learned a lot of lessons from what he talked about, what he went through with his sons and his wife. And it's very important for me to think about the same things and what I should do going forward and how I open my ways of communicating with my family. So, I took a lot from that, and I've really taken a lot of that from heart, because I learned a lot about when we went through with your experiences, and again, when you were talking about it, it took me to a whole other place, and that was where I was going, okay, I've never thought about it from that point of view, because I was really passionately doing what I was loving what I was doing, but I never took any account of what it could do or how it affect my family. And that was one of the things where I said I had to go really start the process of connecting with my kids again and my wife and finding out, hey, these are things that there's some things that bother us. And it was eye-opening. And I
Okay, we lost you.
This is what happens with live.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, technical glitches sometimes happen, right?
So at least there's two of us. We can keep talking.
Yes. See, you know what Gabriel is displaying right now, the fact that he was willing to open up and share a personal journal entry, it just really not only blows my mind. I'm so touched by his willingness, but that is in essence what we offer to individuals that come to the positivity chat. They have the opportunity to share these deeply personal stories, thoughts, opinions, ideas, and the rest of the folks are just sitting there in awe. You know,
I'm thankful that he shared that, because again, it's encouraging to me to see that my interaction with him made a difference, made an impact.
Yeah. How often do we go through life and not fully knowing the type of impact we're having on others? I mean, yes, some of us are in positions where we know we're impacting people's lives, but I mean, to really, really know, even to hear one person come back and tell you, you know, it is when you really listen to what they have to share, it just touches you deep down inside. And it also gets you fired up to keep doing what you're doing, right?
It does. And I guess that's the great thing, is the ability to touch a single life. You don't have to touch a lot of lives. You just have to touch one person, and it makes it all worthwhile, at least for me.
Yes.
Because I know, I'll give you an example of an image that I've kept in my mind since a youth, is I've always thought, you know, what does God want to do with me? And as I've thought about that, I could picture the world. And in my heart and mind, I was saying, you know, God, make me a thumbprint on that picture. That my impact might be just like a thumbprint in this overall plan on what you're doing in the world. I don't have to paint the whole thing.
Yes.
I just want you to use me to make a difference someplace.
Yes. I share, you know, a very similar thought process, and I've even come to learn to embrace my quirkiness, and that maybe God can use, even in my quirkiness, that God can use that as a way to build a bridge with somebody who maybe might be an outlier, you know, somebody who might not be considered part of the normal crowd, but because of some quirk of mine that either ticked them off, gosh, does that woman ever shut up, you know, that type of thing. Or, you know, here she comes.
I never thought that.
No, never, Steve. No, not that. Ooh, you know, ooh, no, never. Oh gosh, Karen, look at the top. Never. No, I'm just kidding. You've never said that. You've yawned a couple of times.
Hey, but that's the fun thing about a partnership, right? Is all the small little idiosyncrasies that you learn about each other, and how to really gauge and play off each other, and it's a wonderful thing. So sorry about what happened. Technical issues happen all the time, but here's the thing: I gotta always have a backup plan in place, because it happened to me once where I'll share this story real quick. But I had this couple on, and I literally disappeared from my own show for 10 minutes, and they actually carried on the conversation between the two of them while I was gone. So, you know, I gave them all the gratitude for even doing it, first of all, because most of the times some people might go, "What happened?" and then just leave.
Right.
And so I have a backup plan where I have two separate lines now. So for some reason, like what just happened now happens, it's literally taking a few seconds to change one internet line into the other and then get back going. So,
well, hey, Karen and I can talk to each other all day long. So, you know, if you need to disappear for 10 minutes, we'll keep going.
Yeah, we'll keep going. What's the longest? At the moment, our longest is like 3 hours and almost 20 minutes of just chatter. I mean, we were trying to do constructive. It was productive. I don't want anybody to think that we were just talking about nothing. Some of it was talking about nothing.
I think I think the longest solo chat that I had with somebody was, I think, with me and Brian Shulman. We had a conversation. It was like 2.5 hours just between the two of us talking. And I think as a group, it's been almost 2 hours, almost 3 hours is where I've hit the mark of with other people. So it might have been three. I think it was 3 people that were in the whole conversation. So I think that's the longest I've gone with more than 2 people. But and the only reason I had to cut off my conversation with Brian was because of my dog. Because if not, me and Brian probably could have get talking for 3 hours. And I love the man. He's
It's definitely, if people will give you the time, you can keep talking with them. I know for me,
Yes.
that 3 hour plus, the first time I did that with Shar Auckland, when I met with her.
Yeah.
I did it with Wendy Gilhula when I met with her.
Hey, as you can see, shout out to her, because as you see on my hand there,
the Pika thing. And then
I got
Elaine
the swag.
Jackus, she and I have had a few of those such conversations, and now the winner is obviously Karen. We've had a number of those.
Yes, yeah, but you know what? In all seriousness, that's a sign that you're fellowshipping, communicating, spending time with good people, right? Good people. We want to spend time with good people that feed our souls, that make us laugh, that help us to remind us that there is goodness in the world. And so, yeah, sure, I know whenever Steve shoots me a text saying, hey, you got time to jump on a call, I know in my mind I need to clear my schedule, but it's okay, because I actually enjoy spending time with him. And I'll be honest, there have been a couple of our lengthy chats that I was surprised that he didn't say, Karen, I've got things to do.
So, talking with Karen, she really blesses my life and makes me a better person. So when you have those type of people in your life, you want to keep talking to them.
Yes.
And I've been fortunate that through this positivity chat thing to have a lot of opportunities with Karen, because we talk beforehand, we talk after, we talk other strategies and whatnot. Yeah, and sometimes we do talk about nothing. We just chat and
talk about
and life and all those other things.
and those are to me some of the wonderful chats, right? Is that you get the fact that you're just talking about life. It's not so much about the issues of the day or what we're trying to achieve. It's just really learning about somebody.
Yes.
And I think those right there are the ones that I cherish the most, is when I have those kind of conversations. So even the ones that that don't even make it to the airwaves, I cherish those, because again, I learn about who this person is, or what they're about, and what they love to share, and what life is. And again, I could be like you. I could talk for, if I don't make myself be quiet, I can sit here and talk literally. Well, sometimes I do have to talk for an hour by myself. So when I have solo shows, I talk for an hour, sometimes an hour and 5 minutes. And then I used to think to myself, how can I talk for a whole hour? Who's going to find it interesting? When I first started, my first show was me just talking, and it was 19 minutes, and I struggled to get to 19 minutes. Now I could probably talk for 2 hours.
Yes, you could be like Brian Shulman and keep on going,
because there's so many things that you can hit on that relate to who we are as people, what we love as humans, what we want to share, and how we can connect. And there's so much great conversation, and when you have wonderful individuals with you who you really want to have these conversations with, it's almost like sitting at a party and goes, I don't want to stop until they tell us I have to leave.
Yes.
When they start flickering the lights and say, hey guys, it's time to probably go home.
Yeah, that's Karen. Her
Yeah,
phone
every now and then.
mysteriously drops.
Yeah, every now and then, I have my kids are a little bit younger than than Steve's.
Yes.
So every now and then I can use them as a scapegoat. No, I'm just
Yeah. That and a dog. She has a
I'm just
dog.
kidding.
Like, oh, I
Yeah,
gotta go take care of my dog.
yeah. No, there are times though where, I feel like we could continue talking, but I also value Steve's time
Right.
and energy because, the reality is quite simply this, because we show up authentically and Steve is as much of a giver as I am, you've run the risk of just giving so much of yourself when you're having these types of real authentic conversations that you don't have anything left to you barely have anything left to give to your family. And for those who join our conversations, they may still have to go back to work, so we don't want to try to take every little bit of drop of energy out of them, just most of the energy, that's all. Just not
Exactly. Yeah.
asking too much.
Hey, but I think there's so much that comes out of those things. So I think that's why they'll take the time to dedicate to having those conversations, because there's so much that comes out of them, and I think that's pretty important.
Absolutely.
So if somebody wants to block off their time and go, okay, this is what because I'm one of those people that I want to go on there, and I go there for two reasons. Number one, because I again love being positive, and number two, I love to learn, and I take something from just about everybody that's there.
Yes.
And I just me being me, I'm real meticulous about taking notes. If something might set something that could set off a light bulb for me and go, okay, wait a minute, wait, let me write this down real quick, because these are every conversation. There's always these nuggets,
Yes.
and there's these nuggets that I hear and I go, whoa, I need to, first of all, because I'm like you. Once I hear something like that, I love to go down those rabbit holes. And I get super hyper focused on something whenever I hear something like that sets off that little light bulb over my head, and I go, okay, wait a minute, I got to go and start. And first thing I do is I get off a conversation is I write down what I want to write down, and then I go to Google or YouTube or whatever it is, and I start digging into whatever the conversation piece is that really sparked my interest, because I think it's, for me, it's an instant way to start soaking in knowledge. So whenever somebody says something to me that, again, it touches a nerve, I want to go instantly learn about it, find out about it, and see what I can learn and share with somebody, because I think at some point it comes around full circle where you're talking about something with somebody and they mention it and you go, oh, by the way, listen to this, right? And I just love to do that, because again, I feel adds in my own growth. Even if I don't use it, it's something that helps me grow as an individual. And I really love to, I'm really spending a lot of time doing a lot of self-development on myself, because I feel that's what my soul needs right now. It's a lot about what I want to do, as what I tell everybody, I am becoming the man of my dreams. So for me to do that, that's what it takes, is to me to take in those things that I've always envisioned myself to become. So that's what I really concentrate on. And it's funny that I've never met Karen in person, seeing how we're both in pretty much the same area.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Something that I got to knock off the list whenever, quote unquote, COVID-19 does its thing and hopefully runs its course.
Exactly. I've got it in my mind. I'm going to hop in the car, drive down to Dallas, because I got, I got Karen, I've got Lila. Doug Thompson's a little bit further south. There's lots of great people in that area that I would love to spend time with.
There's Kyle Burt. There's so many interesting people here in this little area for some reason, right? When I first started this journey, I never knew that there were so many wonderful individuals in the same area as me. And as I went along, I go, oh yeah, here's another one, right?
Yep.
So So she here is as well as another in the area, and she's somebody else that I've connected with, and I would love to meet whenever this whole thing goes away again, because I think when you get that many people who share a lot of those same common principles about what life is and how they objectively see everything and the perspective, it's just such a wonderful thing that comes. So many wonderful things come out of it. I mean, literally, here's a funny thing. I don't like to do this, but I want to touch on Lila Smith again, because I went to her Voice Her Values when she was kind of doing her beta sort of thing around there, and the people that I met in that room that day have impacted me, or I've come really close to. So another one is Michael Goldberg. I connected with him. Fanny Dunnigan is another one that was there that day. Jake Jordan, he's another interesting human being. He actually does a show every morning now, and shout out to him. It's called Morning Bill, which is just short for Brothers in Learning. Very, very, very good content that those guys put together. Him and his friend John Hill, who I've become a friend, another guy who's from here locally. But again, so much at that table, and I was a relatively unknown person there. I was just really starting my journey. So for me to sit down and heard a lot of the things that we went on in that conversation there, they really touched the nerve about me wanting to go out and build my own voice, and started crafting it. And that was, I got to say, that was one of the first steps that led me to this journey. I mean, at that point, I was just I was just wanting to learn and how to connect and learn how to network with people at that point. And to see where I've come from now. And then she's doing another one online here on July 22nd. So shout out to Lila. She's doing her Voice Your Verbs thing again. And I'm going to be a part of that one, just because I actually adore the woman a lot, because who she is as an individual. And that was the first thing that caught me off guard whenever we met. I went to go shake her hand. She goes, "I don't shake hands." She just gave me this big hug, and I was like, whoa, okay. Awesome.
She's amazing. She is like a true powerhouse. She's a shining light. She loves, her heart is actually bigger than she is. She loves the world over, and anybody that has any chance to get to spend with Lila, they know she is good people. Somebody shared that with me recently about the quality of the people on our chats, is that they're good people, and I was like, well, you are a part of the good people too. And Lila, definitely, she's good people, and she is very open to wanting to get to know you. And in the same way, all she asks is that you give her the opportunity to show you who she is. And she's very authentic, and we love her so much. We were blessed by her, and everyone, quite honestly, every time any guest that comes on our chat.
Oh yeah.
Like tomorrow, shameless plug, tomorrow we've got another one coming up. Tomorrow's at 4 p.m. Eastern.
4 p.m. folks. Yes.
And so we're hoping that we'll get some more people will want to come and join the conversation. And Steve and I have decided, we made this agreement that if it's just the two of us, then the two of us shall engage and pick up the slack for everybody else that's not there. So I'm hoping that there'll be some other people to join us. But if not, I'm in good company.
That's okay, and I'm gonna try to shoot to that one tomorrow as well. So if you see this face, everybody, you know why. Because I love those talks, and even the first one that I was a part of. I mean, I got to meet so many people that I had been connected with, but I never had the opportunity to talk to. So like Karen Cooper was one of them. Rob House was another one. I love Rob. He's I've seen a lot of his stuff, and then actually have a conversation with him. That was another one that was like, wow, okay, cool. These are I love hearing all these people, and of course there was, of course, Lori was there, but I actually had Lori on the show, so Lori's She's a guest. She was episode 24, excuse me. 24. 27 was Carol Campos. So, yes, I try to remember all my guests by number.
That's remarkable, Gabriel. That's a talent. You do know that, right? That's a talent.
Yeah, well, it's talent.
It is to try to go, hey, I've done 100 of these, and let me try to remember your number. So, and every now and then I get a few that stump me. But for the most part, I try to remember just about everybody that comes on by their number because, of course, I've created it in my head. So
wait till you reach 500 and someone says, "Okay, who was 399?"
Yeah, I'll be back asking and see if we come up with 68 again.
Yeah, I'll be like, I think at a certain threshold, you go, oh, no. I think at that point you figure out. Let me go ahead and save them on my phone, so just in case somebody. But it's because I've had so much fun doing them, so that's why I'm trying to remember who everybody is and what episode they've been on and that sort of thing. Because I've been blessed beyond what I ever imagined to have. Of course, the people to come on first of all, and then to build a lot of long-lasting, strong, foundational relationships with a lot of these people. And I think that's what I value most out of all of it is the people that I connect with and having and at any one point in time during a day go, let me reach out to this person again because we've always had wonderful conversations and they lift me up. They give me so much whenever I do need it, or if I just feel a feeling, maybe this person needs something today. Send them a message, send them a video, whatever it is. And again, that's why I love meeting and connecting with as many people as I possibly can. Because to me, it adds so much value to my own life. And like I said, I've built such strong friendships. That have actually gone beyond just gone beyond as being acquaintances and people and colleagues. These are people that I've become friends who I can feel I can be friends with for the rest of my life. So, thank you. Of course, Mr. Sullivan is always very in the top of my books because he's always been he's been nothing less than a gentleman every time that we've had a conversation, and I really do appreciate that. So, hats off to you, sir.
Well, hats off to you because, when I told you to share your story, it seems like the next week you're doing a live show. I'm like, how did that guy go from 0 to 60 in 2 days?
Well, it was a bit of a. It seemed that way. It was a bit of a ramp up. I did start posting at that point. After you told me that, I started posting every week, and then it got to be where I was doing almost daily at one point. And then from there, I went to the point where I said, well, if I can do this every day, I would like to find a forum. And here's how everything comes full circle and why the world works in such a wonderful way. After I had that thought, the next day, I see a posting on my LinkedIn feed that says Pirate Broadcast with Steve Sullivan. And I go, I said, I know Steve. I love Steve. Let me watch this. I watched it, and I got introduced to a gentleman named Russ Johns. And the rest is history of how it happened. But I would have never paid attention. I'm not going to lie. I would have never thought to even look had I not seen the name Steve Sullivan on there. And
was that the first one where he interviewed me, or was it the second one where I interviewed him?
That was, I believe, the second one where you had already
New Year's Day, yeah.
Yeah. So at that point, I saw that interview there, and I go, okay, this is what I'm looking for. And I go, at that point, I spent the next week looking at all the options, and then I finally said, you know what, I need to reach out to Russ. And I mean, I kind of the same thing with Steve. When I first connected with him and reached out and we connected, I didn't expect what I got, which
Yeah.
was
Well,
two
that's a
gentlemen,
great guy.
two wonderful individuals who were, first of all, willing to share their knowledge with just a guy. At that point, I was just a guy wanting
Yeah.
to learn, and for them to spend a 2 hour, 2.5 hour conversation talking about what it is to put together a show and walking me through and giving me advice and tips. To me, that was the light bulb moment for me that said, yes, I have to go through with this. And then a few weeks later, I put everything together, sit down at a folding table in my garage with with a very dim light bulb, a white sheet back behind me, and I turned on my camera, and the rest is history to this point. Yes, and it
How
was
amazing.
and it
Yeah,
makes
you'll have to let me come back and interview you like I did Brad.
Hey, and that's another thing that I would love to have on, because I'm getting to the point where I'm feeling comfortable now where I want to share my story. See, I've done enough of these to ask everybody about their story, right?
Mhm.
But here's the thing: I've never had it turned around where I need to start sharing what my journey has been and what
Yeah.
I've learned upon this thing. So yes, that's an interesting thing that you are more than welcome to come back. And if Karen would like to join as well, she can come along as well. You are always welcome on the show. So
Thank you. Thank
thank
you.
Thank you.
thank you again, both of you guys, for coming on, taking the time out of your busy evenings to have these wonderful conversations. And of course, to everybody else who's been following along, you guys are again the lifeblood of what I do here and what I love to share. So guys, check it out tomorrow. Another positivity chant with both Steve Sullivan and Miss Karen Markle, and that will be at 3 p.m. Central, 4 o'clock Eastern Time. These things are wonderful. If you've never been involved, reach out to either one of them on LinkedIn, and I have the
Yes.
link to both of who they are, where you can connect with them on LinkedIn, and tell them you want to be a part of the conversation. I think they'd be more than happy to have another voice and somebody else's experiences and stories to share as well. So
Yes, definitely.
thank you, Karen, so much. Thank you, Steve, again for coming on the show.
You're welcome.
As always, you guys are the best. So sit tight for a second. I would love to have a word with both of you. Everybody else, I will be back tomorrow evening, 7 o'clock. You know the drill. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your evening, everybody. And I will talk to you again tomorrow, 7 o'clock Central Standard Time. Bye-bye, everybody.